at the Hidden Jackpot GovCast from South Florida. Oh, look, we got some outdoor action happening.
Utah's in the house too.
Oh, I got my noise maker. Woo! How's everybody doing? Welcome to September. We made it. We made it. That's all the craziness through this year. We made it to September.
Yes.
Woo! Thank goodness. Want to introduce my co-host? You should know them by now. Dre.
Hi. Good to see everybody. Hope everyone having a good September to start. Excited for Labor Day.
Woo! Labor Day next weekend. Long weekend.
Huh?
Wait, would you say you have plans for Labor Day, Dre, or what?
No, I was saying I'm thinking today's Thursday and we've got Labor. My days are all messed up. It's all right.
You got 3 more days.
It is Tuesday.
You got another whole show before we do that.
All right, keep it moving.
Gary was up late last night as we closed out the month, so she's a little weary closing deals. Stevie B.
Hey, everybody. Stephen Bryan, Dean of GovSales University. As always, pleasure to be here. Thanks so much for having me, Jack.
Yes. Hey, thanks for being here. We pay you so much. Appreciate you coming back every single week. The pay is very, very high.
It's like a Seinfeld episode, right? Like whatever they get.
Yes. With people who's free today, come on, get in. Hey, if you're unaware, it is the last month of the federal fiscal year, so that's what we're going to wind up talking about for most of this month. It's the last month of the federal fiscal year. Ton of money spent this month. So we're going to spend most of the month talking about the end of the fiscal year, and then we actually have a webinar event coming up. So if you have any questions, comments, you can put them in the box below, and then we'll make sure we cover those. We have a great guest today, Josh Ellars, the founder, CEO of Patri, so he'll be here in just a little bit. And so we'll actually talk to him about winning federal business and his new company and what he's doing to help folks win business with the government. It's going to be super exciting. Good. So that's the plan for today. Before we jump off, anything you guys want to add? Anything?
I'm excited for the show today. Let's keep it going.
Good one.
It's spending a ton of money. We have had our biggest month through this COVID crisis. The government is spending a ton of money. I just want to encourage you to look at selling to the government. It's an amazing, amazing opportunity. And so as I mentioned, this is the end of the fiscal budget cycle for the federal government. So for state and local, you'll see it on the screen. The state and local agencies all have different fiscal cycles. But for the federal government, it runs from October 1st to the end of September. And so this is the last month of that. And you're like, well, why do you keep saying that? Because Dre, I'm going to throw it over to you for your charts of spending to excite people about all the money that's coming down the pike.
Yes. So I'm sure everyone has heard the term, right? Use it or lose it. So if we are looking at this chart, so this just shows us over the last year. So we just took 2019. And so you'll notice it's around 40-ish billion that these agencies are spending every month. And then if you look how August starts to trend up and then September is literally almost 100 billion. And so that goes to show it's the end of the fiscal year for federal agencies, and they have what's called use it or lose it. So essentially they have to use this money or they lose it. So, right now is just a really good time for you guys to either call your contacts from, the agencies you've been working with, or even try to find a couple new ones. They've got the money to spend. You want to target them because this is going to be a huge, huge month of spending for them.
It actually, go by weeks. Yeah, go.
No, I was going to just say, like, this chart is amazing because you'll see still like 8 billion in week 1. We've got week 2, 18 billion, week 3 around the same. But then week 4 just goes to show they have all this money to spend and they want to spend it. So why not have them spend it with you? So start calling on them.
Yeah, I think to open and honest if you're trying to deal with the federal agencies, you want to have some. If you haven't made any inroads, call a federal agency and win some of the business month could be a struggle, but they are spending a ton of money. And then every once in a while, behind the scenes, we have folks that'll ping us and they'll give us some blowback and be like, "You guys are misrepresenting how easy it is to win government business." So Kelly and our staff, they see all the pings we get via social media, be like, "That is very disingenuous of you." But listen, it happens. I know the government folks don't love the use or lose term. So they're not a big fan of that, right? We get to the end of the fiscal year and they're like, the government gives out budgets and most departments, if they don't spend them, they still have to give that money back. So sometimes they're not very incentivized to spend the money. So some of the things folks that really don't love talking about are use or lose funds, the term that Treya used. So it's a real thing, whether folks want to talk about it or not. It's It's like police officers saying they don't give out more tickets at the end of the month. It's a real thing.
It's like taboo.
Yeah, don't tell anybody. Shh. You're not allowed to say it out loud, but it's a real thing. Listen, it's a real thing. It's, it gets a bad rap, but it's just a real thing. So sorry about that. And then this other thing about, hey, you could never win. You need months and weeks. You need to know everybody and all this stuff. So we just pulled some stats. So I think most of you know, we maintained a database of government spending. So we just want to show you a couple of things that got spent the last year or two at the end of the fiscal year. And so I think we have a couple of the purchases that were made across the map. So let's see, these are some of the more fun ones that we pulled out. So you'll see last year the Pentagon spent $2.3 million on crab during the last month of the year. And then, another, what about a little over $250,000? Another 2.3 on lobster tails, almost 300 grand on steaks. So these are some of the fun things that were spent at the end of the year. So when folks are like, it really doesn't happen. Listen, we have the database. We actually have the data. We see it live, what's being spent. So those are real things that are happening out there. So use or lose is a real thing.
How do I get an invite to that party, though? That looked like a good time.
Well, listen, it's one of those things like the grass looks greener, because I'm sure if you saw that with DOD. So I'm sure those stuff for our military men. And so
maybe
I assume they might have been eating that food in a place, maybe, Stephen, we wouldn't want to spend a lot of our time. So
Understood.
God bless our troops. And so if anyone deserves to be catered to, amen, they deserve the steak and what is it, surf and turf dinner. I assume they had sometime late September, early October. Amen. Mm-hmm. And then we had a couple other ones that we wanted folks to see. So again, the government buys everything. We talk about that all the time, right? And so these are just some of the things: $32 million worth of batteries, over $4 million in books and pamphlets, all spent during the last month of the fiscal year. Over $200 million in furniture, over $7 million in workout equipment, and then the big expenditure, you can see another almost $800 million on guns, ammo, and bombs. So, hey, we got some extra money. Let's get some ammo. So, a lot of money. Listen, a lot of money spent this month. Again, that's just on the federal side. Those are just some of the federal stats. And the federal government is harder. If you've never sold to the government, we don't encourage you to start at the federal level.
Yeah.
It can be super daunting, right, Steve? That's what in GSU, that's what you serve them up. Like, don't start with the federal government, right?
Yeah, I say start in your own backyard, your local government, your local schools, cities, or counties. Then you kind of work up to like state agencies. It's a hybrid between local and federal. And then, federals, like you see, they spend a lot of money, so everyone wants to start there. But to increase your chance of success, you build up your resume. You say, hey, look, I've worked with this agency in the past, and use those references. So when you do have your time to shine, you're already prepared, and they can look at your references and see all the good work you've done with the local and state government to increase your chances of winning that federal deal.
Amen. Yeah, those stats are really almost like a carrot we want to show folks. The government during COVID spending a ton of money. And listen, one of the things we really emphasize now as we talk to clients, here's the other thing that's so important. Not only does the government spend a ton of money, they buy everything, but listen, the government always pays. So let me just repeat that. The government always pays. That's going to become such a critical part over the next 6 to 12 months, because a lot of folks have contracts. You might have a lot of business signed with companies, and guess what? You're never, ever, ever going to get paid on them, because some of these companies are going to go bankrupt. They're not going to pay their bills. COVID's going to drag them down. They're going to use some of the other spending outs they have. They might go get loans. So not only does the government buy everything, but they always pay. And so it's so important, obviously, to get paid for the things you're doing and the things you're offering. So the government is going to be a linchpin, the saving grace for so many companies over the next 6 to 12 months. And so one of the things we're going to do to help that process, in addition to this LinkedIn Live, for the first time ever, we're actually going to host a live event, right, Steve? So our first event. So you want to tell folks what we're doing here in a couple weeks?
Yeah, really excited. So this is our first live webinar, but we're going to have coaching. Jack's going to be there as well. And we're going to teach you what you need to know to be successful this year. Everyone came into a plan starting out 2020. And then things got derailed a little bit, but now's the time to get back on track. So we're going to teach you, how to achieve your sales goals in 2020, focusing on the government. 10 simple ways the government buys. So we're going to teach you all the little ways where you don't have to go through that long bid and RFP process, because we know how important it is to get money in your pockets now. And that's really going to be the focus of the webinar, is to make an impact on your 2020 sales goals. So if you have time, it's going to be 12 noon Eastern time on September 10th. There's actually the link below. You can register. I'm going to tell you how to navigate, the federal government. So if you are trying to get that use it or lose it this month, we'll touch upon federal and also the state and local agencies. So if you're out there and you're looking for ways to kind of figure out what to do with the rest of your year, know that this is going to be a great webinar to help put money in your pockets and hopefully save your business. So when you're starting 2021, you already have, your game plan structured, a couple wins under your belt. And then 2021, you can continue, working with government agencies and grow your business from there.
Amen.
Can I join too?
It's free. Look, it's totally free. You can come. It's free.
I'm going to have FOMO. You guys are going to run a show without me. I'll just be a viewer this time.
Come on in. Everybody's welcome. I think what do we have? 250 slots available, Jack?
Yeah, it's a Zoom call. So we have 250 slots. No, I think we have 500 slots, actually.
Oh, we bumped it up? Slots. Okay, great. Yep. So we have 500. So the first 500 that register will get in. So sign up today. We'll send you alerts. I know it's 10 days away. You might forget. But we'll let you know ahead of time. But it's going to be something you don't want to miss. Again, if you're trying to figure out what to do in 2020, figuring out how to get back on track, figuring out how to get your sales goals accomplished, we will teach you the path, and it's going to be great. It's just something that we teach in GSU all the time, so we're just doing it live. So if you have any questions, we'll be able to help answer them and try our best. With 500 people, I don't know how many questions we'll get through, but again, you can always ping us afterwards, and we'll do our best to get you the answers you need.
Yeah, I'd love to add on to join. Yes, I love to add. Listen, it's about winning business this year because so many folks feel like it's, the government, 6 to 9 months, 2021. No, listen, the whole reason we're having the webinar is we get so many companies reach out to us and like, it's about saving next year. No, we're going to talk about on the webinar how to win government business this year, this month. So for the next 4 months, that's the focus of it. It's not a long-term thing. We're not going to tell you how to win a bid in July of 2021. It's like, hey, how can you win some deals this year? So important. So it's super, super current. We're not going to waste any time with, how you build your team for 2022. We're not going to talk about that at all. We're going to try to help give you some short-term things to win deals this year. Amen?
Yep. And if you register, you're watching this live or you're watching the replay, post in the comment section that you registered. We want to see how many people registered watching the GovCast. We'll give you special attention. So just post that in the comments below this video, and we'll make sure to reach out to you personally.
Well, yeah, one last thing. Everybody that registers, we're actually going to give you the top 10 agencies that buy whatever you sell. So if all you do is register, we're going to reach out to you and give you the top 10 agencies that buy whatever you sell. So just for that alone, it's worth attending. It's the best hour you're going to spend the last third of the year. Cool? So with that segue, we want to welcome into the show Josh Ellars, the founder and CEO of Patri. Thank you. Look, Josh is big time studio out in Utah. You see, he is all good to go. Josh, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm super well. Thank you so much. Yeah, broadcasting live from the mountains of Utah in my sound booth. I was telling Jack and the team that I've got a few kids at home, so the sound booth is necessary, but it works out well for opportunities like this.
Amen. Thank you so much for joining the show. Josh has an extensive background in selling to the government. So can you tell our audience some of the things you've done, and then we'll obviously talk about Patri, your current endeavor, but your background in selling to the government and some of your experiences, so they have a good idea where you've been and what you do.
Yeah, you bet. So I've spent about 12 years selling to the public sector. Mostly my expertise has been starting public sector businesses for technology companies. So I cut my teeth with higher education and K-12 and public education back in the Novell days, long time ago. And then my VP from Novell moved out to DC, asked me to come out and start the public sector business. And we focused on all sectors of public sector, DOD, civilian, state, local education. And then during that time, I was also going to Georgetown for my master's degree. So really focused on business, public sector, and in addition to that, really focused on branching internationally and understanding the international public sector a little bit. And from there, I was recruited to come start the public sector business at Qualtrics, which just sold recently for $8 billion to SAP and had an incredible run there. Very fortunate that it went well. And then after that, I spent some time at a company called Decision Lens, building out their public sector business, and then finally landed at a company called OpenGov, one of the fastest growing GovTech companies in the world. Revenue tripled during my term there. I managed go-to-market, marketing, a bunch of the sales functions, go-to-market strategy, helped raise the fund that was Series D for about $50 million. and then launched Patri in October. And I could talk a little bit more about that, but that's my public sector focused experience so far.
Yeah, amazing. What years were you in DC at Georgetown? What were years with them?
I was there from 2013 to 2015.
Yes, that was before I had already left. So I spent time in DC. I worked for PwC and working for NavAirs. That's where I started my chops in the DC area. If you sell to the government, you got to pass through the Beltway at some point to see how inside the Beltway in Washington DC is its own world. So if you've never had the experience to work in that environment, it is amazing. Not only we just mentioned all the money the federal government spends. When you're inside the Beltway of DC, you see it's a machine. Like there is a way that folks do it. It's really, really amazing. So all those experiences led you to start Pettree. So can you tell our audience about your current company and how long it's been around and what was the impetus to start it?
Yeah, you bet. We're a brand new startup. So when I left OpenGov in October, I left to launch Pettree. I'd been building software for a couple years, nights and weekends. The biggest thing that I learned in going to market with the public sector and also helping companies branch into international markets is that diversification is key. Too often, and Jack, you've mentioned this already on this GovCast, too often government-focused companies go out and say, hey, look, it's going to take me months and years to win an opportunity. And I've learned over the years that that's a very poor way to live. And diversification is key when you're selling to public sector. It's not about the RFP. It's not about the lengthy contract, right? So I actually had a lot of scar tissue from Metalogix and Qualtrics with my reps coming to me all the time. Hey, Josh, we got to respond to this opportunity. And over time, I learned that, oh my goodness, this is very detrimental to my business because there's a massive market, right? You pronounce 80% of the market is non-RFP based, right?
Definitely, yes.
And I built a tool called BidScore to help companies qualify bid opportunities and really put a really strong filter in the ones that they respond to so they can divert attention back to the opportunities that actually matter. So at OpenGov, we did this. They were one of my pilots. In my term there, using BidScore, we tripled the revenue for the company because we followed that methodology of qualify first. It's not about going after and grabbing as many contracts as you can through the RFP process. There's so many other ways to identify purchase opportunities there. So that's the impetus behind Patri. So we go to market with BidScore to help companies qualify these opportunities, and we're selling to public sector focused companies in addition to all of the other regulated markets, construction, healthcare, finance, legal, because they're in US tech, there's a $65 billion problem. And that's the cost of lost RFPs among US tech alone. So we're going to attack that market, and it's been super fun so far.
Yeah. So it's amazing for our audience. Some of the stats, so the government spends a ton of money, over $7 trillion a year, a ton of money. And so one of the stats we always reference is 80% of that spending doesn't go through a bid and RFP. There's a lot of different ways the government buys things. It can be a lot more efficient. And then secondly, though, when they do, the bid and RFP world is huge. A lot of money is spent there, a ton. And so, Josh, can you talk some about the BidScore thing and kind of what it does and helps direct people to the ones that are most advantageous to them? Because there is some science to it, right? It's not just, hey, let me just throw against the wall and hope something sticks, because that can be a lot of wasted time, as you mentioned.
Oh man, there is. So on the back end of it, what we produce for companies are customized assessments based on company risk profile, the requirements of the RFP, and a bunch of other factors that we've really melded into the algorithm. And the assessments are customizable by the company. So each company, bidding for an opportunity or looking to bid for an opportunity might score differently for it based on their risk profile. And what we do in the system too is gamify it so that whenever they pass on a low probability bid, I actually give them the hours and the money saved for the company so that they know that, hey, it's originally a lot of people thought of RFPs as just a sunk cost, but no, it's actually a money burner. I saved OpenGov $85,000 in the first year, and some of our bigger clients, even overseas, are saving in the millions of dollars because of that instant ROI that we could produce for them. So that, for us, has been the impetus between helping operationalize the bid and proposal function to make sure that they're focused on the right things so that they can divert resources the right way.
That's great.
So you worked for a couple different companies right before you went to OpenGov. But what are a couple of challenges that you guys faced along the way? Because I think getting to OpenGov and being able to say that you guys tripled their sales is incredible. But I imagine there's probably some hiccups or roadblocks that you guys came across along the way.
Oh man, I have nothing but hiccups and roadblocks to share. And Jack's laughing because he's been there, and all of you have too, right? So, for me, there are a few things that I learned the hard way. Number one, when selling to public sector, focus is everything. I originally when I started the Metalogix public sector business, I thought, hey, let's just go sell everything to everyone. We're going to make a killing. And bad idea. It was much better to get smaller territories, smaller focus areas, so that my reps can go deep and wide into the agencies, build the relationships, and also identify the opportunities. The biggest mistake I ever made was trying to sell everything to everybody. Number one. Number two, I would say that I always tried to align originally my reps quota to just the company's fiscal year. And that was problematic. I learned over time to work with finance to align my reps' comp plans and commission to the fiscal year of the market that they're going after. That way, for example, at a public company, you're going to have a fiscal year of probably end of December, but my reps were selling to federal government with end of September. And there's always a peak and a valley, and getting that crescendo to follow the fiscal year of a company was everything. And I learned that the hard way. We had some up and down quarters. And I would say the third one, Andrea, to answer your question, is it doesn't matter what you sell to the public sector. They need everything.
Amen.
And you have to have conviction about what you sell, because these public sector buyers get hit by the thousands of reps coming their way. And in order for you to stand out, you have to believe in what you're selling. I've been in opportunities where I haven't been quite there, or my reps have not been quite there, and it shows. So you have to be convinced. Conviction wins in selling public sector. So those are the three areas of scar tissue that I learned over the years that you really have to fix if you want to have some success in selling to public sector.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I relate to all three of those. I appreciate you sharing that. I could talk about that for another 10 hours, but focusing on budgets right now. I was reading an article, I think you actually wrote, Josh. It was in GovTech, Government Technology, talking about budget allocations versus the citizens. What initiatives are going on with the cities to help out the citizens and how they allocate those budgets, and then also evaluating the performance of accomplishing those goals. Is there anywhere, because that's actually what people want to know, right? Like, who is budgeting for what I have to offer? Who has from an agency perspective, which agency is an initiative that aligns with what my company does? So when you were, calculating all that with, your computer, like, is there like locations that you go to find out, or were you going to each website individually? Because that's where people need to narrow their focus. They want to focus on the agencies that have the initiatives that align with what products or services they sell. So anybody that's like listening now, what kind of advice would you go just to kind of give them a roadmap if maybe they can't afford, these technologies out there, to kind of set them on the right path to, gear them up the best for success that they can?
Yeah, great question. For me, the beginning of that answer is making sure that those territories are aligned so that there's depth. Because if the company does not have resources to go after some of those big expensive products like a Dell Tech, for example, or other solutions out there, the territory size and scope will determine the rep's ability to actually do some research. It's not too hard to Google, what city of Lancaster, California is spending. It's pretty simple. Yep. The problem with that is when you're a company that's really growing up, you don't have the time or the resources to aggregate all of that data, right? So for us, even at Qualtrics, we use GovSpend. For me, the value proposition of it was I actually wanted to see what my competitors were selling in the market I was going after, right? So I was going after SurveyMonkey contracts and Medallia and things like that. And you know what? We took over a lot of those contracts because we knew where to look. So I would say if sales leaders are focusing the territories and the portfolios, it'll be a little easier for the reps to focus. If not, you have to go invest in something, because the problem is you can throw 20K into a GovSpend or another solution. The return's going to be 20x based on time return, right? So making sure that we're helping people understand that those metrics are all about ROI, because you're going to save a ton of money by investing in that type of intel.
Yep. Yeah, I would say in the government market, there's so many agencies. They're buy everything, right? Then it's just figuring out, as you just said, Josh, so important, which ones are buying what I sell, and how do I focus on? It's not too many opportunities. It's narrowly, how do I focus on the ones most likely to buy from me? It's such a huge variable, isn't it?
Yes. And one thing to tie to that, one thing we tried to do at OpenGov and really lead the marketing doing so is OpenGov's a budgeting and performance solution for public sector finance and budgeting pros. And what we really tried to do was, okay, based on the spend at the public sector level, is it really producing the results that the politicians and the legislators and others are promising? Yeah. That's one thing we tried to tie together, which was super exciting to do. And that's why, for me, that was the conviction in going and selling and leading the marketing function and go to market over there, because the country needs that. They need to see where the money's going and if it's actually producing what they're saying it will produce.
Yeah.
Sure. So I know you were hired, you mentioned a couple of your roles to grow the public sector business, to kind of start that division. So just for our audience, because I work with companies all day, some of which are super established in the market and they just need help growing it. And then others, like the ones that you've worked with, that are at the very beginning stages. So what's some advice that you can give them when you're just beginning within the public sector? How to kind of get things going.
Yeah, and I've been that person to launch the public sector business. I have also come in to help an established business kind of revitalize itself. I would say for those just starting, back to the focus principle. I always recommend to my reps to identify, do some research based on the customer base currently, because every company, when I came into Qualtrics, we had public sector sales already happening, but it was maybe in the 300K realm. It was like nothing for a company of that size. So the first thing I did was I actually went through the customer base and found the consistent use cases. What were they using Qualtrics for? And then number two, who were the people buying at the Qualtrics system for public sector? Once I had those things, I refined the persona. I found 3 to 5 personas through that process. I found 3 to 5 use cases, and that's how I went to market. Again, the scar tissue from Metalogix, where I tried to bulk sell everything to everybody, did not carry over to Qualtrics because we wanted to refine the personas and use cases. Those would be the 2 very best things to do. Research your customer base, and then number 2, identify the personas, and then align your messaging. So whatever you're doing to sell to the public sector, you have to align the messaging to the mission. What is the directive of the mission or agency that you're selling to, and how does your solution remediate and align to that mission and metric that they're looking to go after? So I would say persona-based selling and identifying common use cases are critical for companies just starting.
Love that.
That's good. Josh, we're going to keep peppering you with questions, man.
I love it. Bring it.
That's good. We know you have a lot of knowledge in that brain, so I'm just trying to share that with the audience. So it's 2020 now. I just wanted to know what you have seen as far as trends in the industry, because we always know what agencies are trying to do. They need to buy things, and they're trying to save time doing it because they don't like the lengthy process, and they're also trying to save money. They don't want to overspend anything. So what things are you seeing in the market to develop to create those efficiencies to make the procurement process a lot easier for that vendor agency relationship?
Yeah, a few things going on. We'll always have the traditional procurement process for government that is the big bulky thing that is a 20% of the market, right? That is the RFP. A lot of states that I've been engaging with through my customers are trying to narrow that down into something that's a lot more user-friendly in terms of, state of Ohio, for example, is shrinking down that procurement process so that, you don't have to have public bids for an opportunity. You can actually just jump into a marketplace. Yeah. There are other organizations like AWS on their marketplace and others that are trying to get products on their vendor sites so that governments can just go and pick what they need, right? And that's been something that's an innovation driven by the tech industry, but it is in cohort with the public sector market. And then number 3, COVID has created a lot of opportunity. And we need to be aware that we need to get every organization on board to help the market really tackle this problem, right? We've got $3 trillion extra dollars going out to market to help make this happen. And they're making it a lot easier for vendors to engage with public sector, right? And it's not completely frivolous. I get frustrated with the market sometimes that, the government's just throwing money at a problem. In some cases that can be the case, but they're really trying to solve a problem, and the best vendor that can participate will win, right? So we've had this great crescendo as we talked about ending the federal fiscal year, as I call it, the federal crescendo. We'll have almost 10% of the revenue that people close in this fiscal year at the end of the week this month, and we'll have a great amount, 15 to 20% of the spend will be this month. So we just have to make sure that we're helping organizations know that you don't have to go through the lengthy RFP process. Go to those marketplaces, go to those orgs that are being really innovative with their go-to-market strategy.
Yep, totally true. Josh, can you talk about at a more micro level kind of what Pettree does and kind of the model? And so when you start working with a company, or kind of what's that look like at a more granular level? So how can you help our audience if they come across your company? Like, what are the specific things you help them do? How do you direct them? How do you redirect them? Like at a more micro level?
Yeah, you bet. So most of the time we're engaging with public sector salespeople, construction, legal salespeople, or capture and proposal teams for those types of companies. And we initially engage with them because their go-to-market operation is mostly in shambles, right? We don't know how to go to market in the public sector or specific with the proposal and capture function. Please help us. So what we'll do, we sell our product is SaaS, it's based on AWS, has all the security requirements you'll ever want. And what we do is we subscribe people on a user-based subscription to access BidScore. It's an unlimited access subscription for a year. And what they get on the front end is we come in, we'll optimize and customize the BidScore assessments for them. We'll interview their company leaders and really understand where their risk profile is. We'll get that scoring mechanism in place and then understand where the opportunities typically come from. We can tie into any org's third-party solution through our open APIs, and we're out building custom APIs for other people. And with that, it's really self-service at that point. Once we get them up to speed, they've got the assessment, they've got all the data, they create a bid score, they get a probability of win score with strengths and weaknesses, and then they decide, hey, let's pass on or let's respond to, or if they want to get deeper within the platform, they can actually request bid decision input from their org so that they get a holistic view of, hey, should we respond to this or not? Saves them a ton of time, a ton of money. And on the other side, we have training that's much more focused on the proposal and capture function and a little bit of public sector sales to really just help people optimize that type of operation. So it's really twofold. We're really focused on the SaaS part of the business right now, as you know, that's the scalable part. But from a training consulting too, I've been interim CRO for a couple companies as they're waiting and transitioning in the public sector market too. So that's more on the high end stuff, but on the bid score, that's really where we focus.
What are the two inputs there? So if somebody has a bid notification service and let's say they get an email and it has 5 bid RFPs on it, right? Then are they able to take all 5 of those, put them into your model, and then it'll spit out kind of a ranking of the 5? Can they just, what's the input? Do they put the 5 bidder RFPs that they might pursue into the system?
They do, yeah. Right now, it's not intelligent enough to spit out a score individually and automatically. We do need input that's customized by the company because each opportunity is different, each company is different. So right now, they'll create the assessment based on the opportunity. They can link it within the system as well, and then create the score that's their custom score for the company. In time, we will have that AI that allows for, hey,
Right.
you just upload the RFP and this is your score. We're not there yet, but that's coming in the future.
And then how long? So they'll find the bid RFP. It sounds like they'll put in some variables with it. The model will run, and then does each company has a different? Do they have a different, like if it comes out to a certain score, does the score, or do you say, hey, if it's below this score, you shouldn't pursue it?
Yeah, great question. We have standard metrics in there that say, if it's below 50 or 60, it's a no bid automatically. The companies, however, can customize those as well based on their risk profile and determine what the thresholds are. Typically when I'm advising companies, once we've really optimized the algorithm and assessment, I tell them never, ever respond to a bid opportunity below 70. Your chances of winning are going to be, less than 5% at that point. But again, I have to be careful because we're a decision facilitator. We provide the decision data for them to leverage and make those decisions themselves.
And how long does it take? So once, if I have your model, right, I use your service and then I put some in, how long does the analytical process take? Does it vary? It may vary, I guess, based on the size of the effort, but how long is the analytical part to decide, hey, are we going to pursue this opportunity?
It's quick. I mean, within 45 seconds, they'll take the assessment and put, boom, they've got the bid score right there.
Oh my gosh. So that literally that quick, like it'll assess it super quick.
Yes. Yeah, that's been the impetus for us, right? When I had all my reps coming after me and saying, hey, Josh, this is the best opportunity I've ever seen. We're going to make millions of dollars. And I found over time that data diffuses the emotion in that decision.
Amen.
And if I go to them and say, hey, look, based on the criteria, we're not a good fit for A, B, and C, though we're a good fit for X, Y, and Z. I think our probability score is so low. Let's pass on this. You have the data. Let's try to get a better fit one next time. That's much easier than saying, hey, bro, I know you're excited about this, but we're not going to respond to it. There's a lot more contention. There's a lot more contention there as a sales leader. And we're bringing data to the market to help people understand which ones are the best fit.
Amen.
Cool. Well, so GovSales University, we're now including bids in our system. So I'm hearing what you're saying, and I'm like, this is
commercial.
Yeah.
Stop it, Jack. Look,
that's great.
I
love it. You get ready to commercial. Look.
I'm just trying to work out the logistics here, right? So we did, Josh, first time speaking with you today, and it's great to meet you. But how does that work? So we have GSU bids. Do they also sign up for Patri, and then it'll just partner together two SaaS systems and be able to input it, like you said?
Yeah, we could. Like with the open APIs, we could definitely work out an integration to make that happen.
Okay.
Again, it's a little more manual. Like I said, to answer Jack's question too, they'll have to add the criteria themselves, and I'd work with them to do that. But integrating with Deltek and others on the market that are aggregating these opportunities, that's the gap in the market. If you take a look at, and again, the bid and proposal market is a very small portion of the public sector market. Mm-hmm. But the gap in the market is, okay, we've got incredible identification tools out there. Incredible. I will never play there because it's saturated and it's got some wonderful solutions. And on the other end, we've got a great market of response automation solutions, RFPIO, Loopio, et cetera. Mm-hmm. And the gap in the middle is qualification. It's not about responding to more and having automation so that you can respond to 1,000 more opportunities a year. It's about filtering the opportunities so that your response efforts are directed the right way. And all of your other effort is focused on going after that 80% of the market that is not RFP focused. That's our whole value proposition, because when we did that at OpenGov, the lights went off on me thinking, oh, we shrunk the number of RFPs, but our win rates tripled and our revenue tripled. I think we've got something here that we can go to market with. That's really where we're focused.
Yeah, because I think that's what everybody faces when they first get into the government world. They just sign up for one of the bid notifiers, and then they just spend countless time and energy, and they don't win, and then they get discouraged. Yes. So right now you're saying, hey, because we always talk about the other 80%, and that's what we want them to focus it on, because what would you rather focus your time on? 80% of the market or 20%? You want to follow the money. So we teach them the 80% through GovSales University, but that 20%, I'd love to help, all of our users increase their chances of success. So, definitely going to talk to you after this GovCast and see what we can do to help them out.
Let's do it. I love it.
Cool.
One more point I want to interject here too. It's vital that companies understand that principle, right? The bid notification solutions are great, but those companies are going to go after you and just say, hey, this is the only way to go to market in the public sector. I was a victim of that. Talk about gov sales depression. That's what people suffer. Gov sales depression when you go to market that way. But, with gov spend and with what you guys offer, you can get people out of that gov sales depression by opening their eyes to the other opportunities on the market and saying, okay, however, for those 20% of the opportunities that you could go after in the bid and proposal, you have to be qualify first ready to make sure that you're a good fit, or else you're going to fall off the wayside from a quota standpoint.
Hey Josh, real quick, what do you see in the market? What is the normal win percentage? What do you see? What do you see without your stuff and with your solution? What are some ballpark benchmarks you see from a win percentage standpoint?
Yeah, win rates, if you have a well-qualified opportunity, even without bid score, win rates could be anywhere, and I'm speaking specifically about bid opportunities, between maybe 10 and 15%. And that's because companies go after opportunities and they just think, oh, well, I may have influenced this, or I may have relationships. Yeah. With bid score, we're seeing win rates in the 66 to 70% range.
Wow,
it's not
huge.
It's not perfect, but the fits are better. And again, OpenGov just had its best quarter in proposals ever this year. And in addition to that, the companies, again, that we're working with, it's not about the proposal revenue, right? The problem is most companies doing business with the public sector, some stats show that 67% of their revenue actually comes from proposals. 67%, which means how many hours are they losing to get there? That's a ridiculous number. And it's the same in legal. It's 54% of revenue comes from RFPs, and in supply chain logistics, 51%, right? So my job is to go into these types of organizations and say, hey, listen, your revenue should be at max 20% of from RFPs, and the rest needs to come from the open market.
Yeah, amen.
And try to find those opportunities elsewhere.
So I imagine that you guys work with both companies that are experienced with working on bids and RFPs, and maybe ones that are maybe newer to the game. So what do you tell, this is just kind of playing devil's advocate. So what do you tell a company who says, hey, Josh, it sounds great, but you know what, we've been out here for 50 years and we're doing all right. Like, what can you do for me?
Yeah, we run into that all the time. I already know everything.
Oh man. Yeah, that's probably the best question I've heard so far too. That is the major fault of our industry. And I'm coming in, I'm disrupting an industry. I'm saying, hey, all of these proposal agencies, all of these, old time consulting organizations that can show you how to do business with public sector are almost unnecessary, because when you lead with data, you let data drive your operation. And when I come across those, half the time I'll go and just ignore it and say, hey, thanks, but no thanks, I don't have time. Or number two, I'll try to find someone who's innovative in the organization and say, hey, look, who manages the data function? How are you guys making these decisions? I partnered with an incredible company called AOC Key Solutions based in Virginia, the largest proposal agency in the market right now. They've won like $185 billion in public sector proposals. Oh. Yeah. And they've been around for a long time, but they came to me and said, hey, we need to take a data first approach to helping our customers optimize their function. And it's those types of organizations I'll focus on. And if I can't make headway, Andrea, with some of those others that just don't care because they've done it for so long, the market's big enough right now that I can go somewhere else and worry about it elsewhere.
For sure.
go that
I
way.
think it's such a valid point for our audience. There are a ton of government opportunities out there, both in the 80% but in the 20%, these bids and RFPs, a ton. Every day, agencies across the country release a myriad of bids and RFPs. You can get any bid notification system from a low end couple $100 to, Josh mentioned Deltec, maybe 15, 20 grand a year, but they will aggregate them and let you know of all these opportunities. And then, hey, are you going to respond? And so Josh being able to, him and his company be able to help you target your efforts is immensely valuable. The ROI, the savings, the efficiency can be incredible for your company. So you focus your time and effort in the bids and RFPs that are most relevant to your company and not where you care about most, the highest opportunity, highest probability of winning, right? That's where we all want to spend our time. There's nothing worse. You spend 3 or 4 months right on bid and RFP and don't win. You're like, oh, that is a lot. It's a lot of time and energy to get a D on your term paper. So,
oh man, I've got some stories, my friends. That's for another opportunity. But depression and
totally.
Just absolute feeling of being lost in the system is what happens, and that's what a lot of companies are facing right now. We need to grab them out of there and show them a better way.
Amen. Josh, what's the best way to reach out to you for our audience? How can folks find you, your company? What's the best way to connect?
Yeah, best way is our website is gopatri.com. You can also reach out to me at josh@gopatri.com. Pretty simple. Reach out, find out what you want to do. We have a free trial of BidScore that anyone could jump in and do for 14 days. In addition to whatever else you want to do, that's really where we're focused. Would love to connect and help you where I can.
That's great. Thank you so much for your time. Super informative. There's some amazing learnings in the process that you've applied and given folks a model. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Hey, thank you.
For your time. We'll definitely have you back. Want to hear your bid and RP stories.
I love it. Talk soon, guys. Good. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Stay safe out in Utah.
Hey, I will.
So it's amazing. Listen, the government's spending a ton of money, and Josh's service, listen, to help. There's so many bids and RFPs, and if you've never done a bid and RFP, if you work on 2 or 3, they're like a bad term paper that's a 100-page term paper that you spend a lot of time and energy on. And if you win, you are super excited at some of those deals that we talked about begin the show. But when you lose, you feel like, gosh, I put so much of my heart and soul into this effort. And when they choose another vendor, really all you do is you get this little notification. It's like, remember when you did your college application, you get a letter, you weren't good enough, and we moved on. Same thing happens with the government. You get this little notification. You have months in this effort. You get a 1-pager. You're like, yeah, we're done. Thank you very much. And you're like, goodness gracious. It's a lot of time and effort. So we want to help you as well, target the opportunity. So Stephen, can you tell the audience again about the webinar? We want folks to grow out their government sales. In addition to Patri, what else can they do coming up on the 10th?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. So September 10th at 12 o'clock Eastern, we're hosting a webinar. So it's limited to 500 registrants. That's all that Zoom will allow us to do. But register now. There'll be a link. We'll include it in the comments. And if you do register, just put I'm registered, because we want to help you identify top 10 agencies that are buying what you sell. So not only are you going to get great information from us, we're going to teach you how to navigate federal, state, and local government. We're going to teach you how to win a government deal this year. We're also going to provide the top 10 agencies that you should be targeting. And that's what Josh was saying, because you're trying to figure out where to focus your time and energy, and focusing in the wrong area, it's just, you're doing yourself a disjustice. Like, I can't say it enough, right? Time is money. We all know that, right? And if you're spending 3-4 months focusing in the wrong direction, you're never going to get that time back. So we just want to set you up on the right track. So that's why we're going to pull the top 10 agencies that are buying what you sell. We have a database. It shows us real quickly, so it's easy for us to do, but it'll be a time saver for you, because you can just go down that target list, contact those agencies, and start there on your government journey. And that's really what we're trying to do, is help you learn how to sell to the government and achieve your 2020 sales goals. So again, September 10th, 12 p.m. Eastern time. Hope to see you there.
Yeah, and for the audience, listen, no ask on that webinar. A lot of times you're like, it's a free webinar. They're going to try to sell me a bunch of stuff. Right. Listen, the reason we want to do it, we want you to be a client years from now, right? So we're not going to bait and switch you and be like, oh, the webinar was free, but here's a $10,000 sales proposition for you at the webinar. So we want to just see you win government sales this year, keep your business, keep your commissions, keep your company doing super well. Amen. So please register. It'd be the best hour you ever spend the the last third of this year, second half of the year. Good. It's at govsalesuniversity.com/webinar. You can go register. You have another 9 days to do it. Good? Great. Josh, thank you for your time. Dre, any last words you want to throw out to the audience?
Yeah, I think, well, Stephen just touched on it and Josh mentioned it too, which is huge. Because a lot of times you talk to different companies and they're like, okay, so I will need to sell X amount to afford your service or whatever that might be, right? They're going through the numbers. And that's one piece of it. But I think a lot of times people miss the time piece. Like, this is hours upon hours. And so I think it just got me thinking, like, there's a lot more to it than just what money are you going to make from these services. It's how much time are these companies going to save you? And I just think that that's super important for companies to think about.
Yep. So, and I've never seen a service like Patri's. What they do is really unique. Stevie B?
That's cool. Hope to see everybody September 10th, but I'll see you earlier if you keep tuning in Tuesdays and Thursdays. I'll be here Thursday.
Thursday at noon, we'll be back talking about the end of the fiscal year. Thank you so much for your time today. Stay safe. Enjoy September. Return to summer. Labor Day is coming.